Hey everybody, Wendy Sellers here, the HR lady. Thanks for coming today. I have an exciting guest here. We are going to be talking about personal finances and wealth. Ooh, what is that on an HR show? Well, the reason that I've invited this guest on is because it's hard to attract and retain employees. And the more we can help our employees be satisfied in life and, look forward to the future, the longer they're going to stay with us until they hit the lottery or do so well in their finances that, they take the game somewhere else. But your reputation as a company is going to speak for itself if you're helping your employees to succeed outside of work as well as inside of work. So with that said, help me welcome Lane Kawaoka. Did I pronounce that right, Lane?
Yep, yep.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Hey, thanks for coming. Where are you calling in from?
Coming from Honolulu, Hawaii, we say live where you want, invest where the numbers make sense, which is not here.
That is hilarious and not hilarious. But yes, I've been to Hawaii just a few times on vacation, and it is a paradise for sure, but a very, very expensive paradise. So tell our listeners about you and how you got to where you are today, physically and financially.
Yeah, so today we run a real estate syndication company. We've operated over $2 billion of assets, 10,000 rental units, but it wasn't always the case. I started my career back in 2007 as an engineer. Up until that point, always taught to be frugal with my money, invest in the 401k, do all the traditional finance stuff. And, I became an engineer, started to work for the man, and but just knew I needed to save my money and invest in things outside of Wall Street. And that's what I did pretty early on in 2009, saved up to buy my first house to live in. Didn't really use it too much since I was like a single guy back then. And I just started to live on the road actually as I was working in, construction projects that moved across the country. So I, worked the deal out with my HR company to just live off the company dime in hotels here and there. So all my money started to pour into buying little rental properties at the time
Nice.
and just started to, compile, money and buy rental properties. Eventually in 2015, I had 11 of these rental properties. And then I stepped more into investing in larger syndications and private placements from there.
Oh, wow. I love that your HR department was cool enough and savvy enough to say, hey, if this is what it's going to take for us to retain you, then yes, we'll let you, use us kind of we're using each other, right?
Yeah, we're
We're
using each
using
other.
each other.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes we would work a deal out where, I was always coming in and out of Texas or Nebraska, going back to Seattle, and it was cheaper for me to fly into Vegas for the weekend. So I got got to travel a lot, do that type of stuff back then. And, it's like, I mean, it's different, right? When you have a family, but when you're in
Right.
your 20s and some people in their 30s, when you don't have a family yet, you can save a lot of money and have some experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually how I got started traveling. I'm in a couple weeks. I am actually by the time this might go live, it may have already been happening. I'm going to the last three states in the United States that I have not visited yet. And when people ask me, how did you make that happen? Because, I'm not rich. I didn't grow up rich. I grew up in poverty. I say it was because of work, because I traveled a lot for work. And so when I did travel, I always, try to extend my stay a little bit, even if it's a day or whatever. And, kind of mooch off the company dime a little bit. Hey, I have the rental car. I have the airfare. Now I just to maybe have to extend my hotel room to visit places. But boy, I wish I did what you did, which was invest in real estate instead of just temporary stays. So talk to us more about your company, the Wealth Elevator.
Yeah, so we are part of it is like, I'm an author, right? The new book coming out is The Wealth Elevator. There's a lot of financial books out there, even on real estate, but not many of them are kind of catered. Most of them cater towards the masses, right? People who don't really have any money. I kind of focus on people who have at least have a decent job, right? People who are able to save 10, $20,000 a year at the very least. And, maybe you're not going to be buying apartments right away or an accredited investor quite yet, but that was kind of my story back in 2007 when I bought my first rental property in 2009. just taking, doing scrappy things like how you mentioned, right? Saving up $20,000 down payment to go buy your first rental property. That's kind of what I did to get started, right? And today I'm almost 40 now. I mean, this is almost a couple of decades of doing the same thing, rinse, wash, repeat. And, we're kind of talking at the top, right? Like, I think a lot of people are very into their careers, but make no mistake, what is your business? Your business is personal finance. I was just lucky enough to hate my job from the get-go. So I was trying to find any way to get out. And, buying, little rental properties on the side is kind of the way I did it. And we teach people how to do this. And, a lot of our content through our podcasts and the book, and we have a free e-course for people if they want to get it at thewealthelevator.com/turnkey. I would buy these little $100,000 rental properties for 20 grand down payment and get a property manager in there. You hire a professional. Sure, they take maybe 10% of your rents, but this is a way that you get to focus on, your day job where you get more money for down payments to, when I first started, I wasn't buying a property every year. It took me a few years to save up 20, 30 grand. But as things move on and you start to get more and more of these assets, they put, each property you get, maybe another $5,000, $10,000 to your bottom line. And then you're picking up these properties a lot quicker. And it's that asymmetric growth. And along the way, not paying too much in taxes.
Right. Absolutely. I think it's interesting. Most of our listeners are HR, have the HR hat on, management hat. And I think it would be beneficial to most companies, if not all, to offer some kind of education about investing and about financing, about retirement to their employees. And, something like your courses, I definitely wrote that down, make sure that everybody that's listening, I'll post it in the podcast description about the turnkey free e-course that you have. That would be a help to get, myself for one educated, but then definitely all of our employees. I know you didn't particularly love your career, so it was easier to walk away, but a lot of people do like their careers. So I would say don't be afraid, employers, don't be afraid of educating your employees, because if you're still a good company and they're passionate about what they're doing, they're not going to probably walk away from you. So, and even if they do, who cares? You're helping you're helping the better good, and you're getting the word out there that you're a good company. Lane, tell me the difference. I was reading this on your website. What's the difference between cash flow investing and appreciation investing?
Yeah, most people, have this idea of buying low, sell high, right? Makes a lot of sense, right? The trouble is you don't know when the market is up and down, and you can't never time the market. If you think you can, I think you're kind of fooling yourself. In reality, what you want to be doing is creating little cash flow streams along the way. And I think this is where, like, most traditional finance has this idea of put your money in Vanguard, Fidelity, all these 401ks, build this pile of cash. But when you think about it and taking the idea of beginning with the end in mind, you want streams of cash at the end, right? You want to create that big pile and turn it to cash so you can eat it every month. Hopefully you don't eat at the pile, but why not do that in the beginning, right? And that's what's kind of building a portfolio of real assets such as rental properties and allowing you to kind of create mini pensions right there. And the beauty of is if you're working, cross your fingers that you're working at a place you like, you're able to, do this without eating into that cash flow stream and using that cash flow stream to buy more and more and more properties. And that's kind of my story. After I bought 11 rentals, started to get into purely passive syndications and private placements. But typically that's when you get to this next level. And that was kind of where, after maybe 6, 7 years of doing the landlord thing, although, you pay a property manager to do your dirty work for you, right? It's not that
Right.
hard and allows you to focus on your day job. You get to a point where I got to a point where I started to interact with other high net worth accredited investors, and we started to realize that not many of these guys built their wealth investing in Wall Street products like the 401ks, Roth IRAs, that type of stuff. Just too much hidden fees with that type of stuff. So I think that at this point we started to, I started to get really involved in this, and like, wow, like a lot of people very quietly, very secretly are kind of doing this alternative investing model. And also not paying any taxes too, because when you make passive streams of income and you invest in things like real estate, you have passive losses coming off of the investment through depreciation. So losses on paper, which you're able to use to knock out the income that you're making on your investment. So not only are you making better returns, but the drag on your net worth to grow because you're paying less of that to the government legally is what kind of really expedites your net worth goal. And at the end of the day, the score is your net worth. You know, after a while, you stop caring, and you shouldn't care. But if your net worth is under $2 million, you got to grow that thing.
Right, right, absolutely. And I see also on your website that there's a podcast as well.
Yeah, so I started my podcast back in 2016. Back then, I was still, telling people to buy little rental properties, and because that was the way I did it. But more and more so, our group has turned more into an accredited investor base, a lot of working professionals, and really optimizing. Like, look, you're not going to quit your day job. You're not going to be like some crazy 20-year-old flipping a house. That's just too much risk, right? But what is that you can do, sitting from your office 40 hours a week? And what can you do to maximize the money that you do make and invest it in the right places with the best tax strategies and other strategies that the wealthy do? And that's what I kind of discovered. Like a lot of this stuff, like, is very opposite of what my parents taught me, right? What I was taught, what my peers do, my college educated, high net worth, high salary peers. Well, I take that back. They're not very high net worth. They're just high income earners. But what I realized is like the wealthy, the way they do things isn't anything that any of us can't do, but it is very counterintuitive. How we're all taught to buy a house to
Yeah.
live in, invest in the 401k, get the company match, all this stuff. They're not doing that.
Right, right. Now, for our listeners who are mostly HR people or running businesses, they're like, wait, I don't have to have a 401k. I mean, there's no law that you need to have a 401k. Most of your employees are still going to want you to have one. But I would also say take it a next step. And one of you that's listening, get involved with Lane and learn what he's learned, and then see if you could take it the next level to teach your employees that too, so that they're like, wow, I have the best employer in the world. They're teaching me how to be successful long term, not just 9 to 5 while I'm employed to that with them. So I think Lane, I 100% agree with you. It's counterintuitive to what we're taught. So I appreciate you coming on here to explain this at a very high level, and again, offering the free e-course so that people will be able to find out more information, kind of test out the waters before they jump in and work with you. With that said, how do you normally work with people who said, yes, teach me how to do this?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this was created to kind of fight against those BS real estate seminars out there. I mean, a lot of those people, they'll target people who don't have any money. Like hey, here's how do you increase your
Been there,
credit
done
card
that. Yep.
limits and I'll do that type of stuff. So that's why a lot of, our content is just free, on the podcast and then these e-courses. The way we monetize our group is like we have higher level masterminds, but these are for more higher net worth investors, definitely accredited investors and beyond, where your network to get deal flow is very, very important. But, like the way I did it, my first decade of doing it by myself, I mean, it's just buying a rental property, figuring out, what are the great numbers, like for starters, like rent to value ratios of 1% or higher. You take the monthly rental amount divided by the purchase price. You're looking for something 1% or higher. A lot of, like I said, I was buying $100,000 properties that rented for $1,000 a month. 1,000 divided by 100 grand is 1%. If you're looking at something in California for 400 grand that rents for 2,000, that's 0.5%. That ain't going to work. That's not a good
Right.
rental property.
Yeah, exactly. And good luck even looking at finding anything in California, even in the slums, that's at $400,000,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
These days, the
Exactly.
cost of real estate is so, so expensive. Well, thank you so much for coming this on today and sharing this information. What's the best way for someone to reach out to you if they had questions or wanted to find more information?
Yeah, they can come back to our website, thewealthelevator.com. They're a podcast listener. We have the podcast. And then if you're more a visual learner, the YouTube channel. But I would say if you're somebody's like looking to get into this and, not broke, right? Check out the Wealth Elevator book, right? It's more predicated for working professionals and people with, have some traction in their finances already.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us, everybody, and good luck in creating your own wealth. Take care.